Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Roger Johnson and Nina Warhurst.
Our headlines today: the UK's 20-year military involvement in Afghanistan has ended. Boris Johnson says their efforts have been heroic.
President Biden warns another attack on Kabul airport is highly likely within the next 24 hours as US forces prepare to leave.
A severe shortage of test tubes could delay even urgent blood tests, according to the Doctors' Union.
Good morning. It's gold again for Hannah Cockcroft in the 100 metres. She also sets a new world record in Tokyo to win her third consecutive title and claim a sixth Paralympic crown.
And moments after this, Imran fell 200 feet. We'll have the story of the daring operation to save him.
And for most of us, another dry day with some brightness or sunny spells. But there's a bit more detail than that, of course. I'll be back with all the details.
Good morning. It's Sunday, August the 29th. Our top story this morning: the UK's military involvement in Afghanistan is over after nearly 20 years and the deaths of 457 British service personnel.
Troops, diplomats and officials left Kabul last night, but around 1,000 people, including UK citizens and Afghans who are eligible to seek refuge in Britain, have been left behind. John Donnison has more.
Packing up and heading out. The last British soldiers and diplomats have now left Afghanistan, bringing an end to a military operation that lasted just shy of 2 decades. In recent days, more than 15,000 people have been evacuated by the RAF, British nationals and Afghans who had worked with the UK, along with their families. But hundreds who wanted to get out have been left behind.
It's time to close this phase of the operation now, but we haven't forgotten the people who still need to leave. We'll continue to do everything we can to help them. Nor have we forgotten the brave, decent people of Afghanistan. They deserve to live in peace and security.
It was 2001, in the aftermath of 9/11, that the first British troops arrived in Afghanistan, part of a US-led mission. One of the first objectives, to oust the Taliban from power. 20 years on, it's the Islamist group who are still calling the shots. But in an open letter to troops this weekend, the Prime Minister said the UK's involvement in Afghanistan had kept Al-Qaeda from our door for 2 decades. We are all safer as a result, he said. You should feel immense pride. But as we leave, the shadow of terror still looms. Tension remains high at Kabul airport, where Thursday's bomb attack by a local branch of the so-called Islamic State group killed at least 170 people. And America is warning of a high chance of another attack within the next 24 hours, despite a US drone strike in the east of the country, which the Pentagon said targeted IS militants. But as the last British troops left, the government here says the focus is on supporting around 1,000 Afghans it failed to get out on time. Without boots on the ground, what form that support will take is not clear. John Donnison, BBC News.
Well, we're joined now by our political correspondent, Jessica Parker. Jess, the Prime Minister's saying this is a moment to reflect the achievements of recent weeks. Is he putting a gloss on a far darker reality there?
Well, look, I think there's wide recognition of the huge achievement by British troops over the last 2 weeks. The biggest airlift in recent history. The government saying that among the 2,000 plus children who are airlifted to safety by British troops, the youngest just a day old. And of course, as John was saying in his report, the Prime Minister insistent as well that the sacrifice of the last 20 years has not been in vain. But I think any recognition of the achievements of British troops won't dispel the criticism that has been levelled at the government in recent years. People saying that ministers were caught off guard by events in Afghanistan, and that overall this has been a foreign policy failure for the West. I think as well minds will increasingly turn to those who have been left behind, including those hundreds of Afghans who worked with the British authorities who haven't been able to get out in time, and their safety as well. Now, the government's saying it will exert diplomatic efforts to try and establish safe routes of passage out of Afghanistan. But remember, we now have no embassy in Afghanistan. We have no military presence either. So I think while there will be relief that those last flights of British troops got out safely last night. There's also a sense of regret and a sense of uncertainty as well as to how much influence we can exert in a country that we have now left.
Indeed, just for now. Many thanks.
Now, a shortage of test tubes means that GPs are having to make difficult choices about who gets blood tests. That's the warning this morning from the British Medical Association.
Yeah, the BMA said shortages across hospitals and GP surgeries were severe. And if the NHS doesn't reduce usage in the coming days, even the most clinically important tests may be at risk. Catherine Stancheshan has more.
More than 12 million blood tests are carried out in England each week. But now NHS England has admitted there's a serious shortage of the test tubes used in the process, a shortage that's likely to get worse over the next month. It's down to a major supplier of the vials, Becton Dickinson, experiencing what it says are serious supply chain issues due to increased demand and transportation and border challenges. Patients in England and Wales have been receiving text messages like this from their GP surgeries, stating that new NHS advice means clinically urgent blood tests will continue, but others could be rescheduled. The sort of testing put on hold is likely to be in areas like fertility, allergies and pre-diabetes. But some clinicians say the guidance is vague and it's not always easy to decide what's essential. They're calling for more information from government.
There will be some patients who absolutely must have blood tests, and I've got to make that decision and choice and seek understanding from patients who perhaps could wait a bit longer. But I'll tell you this much, the lack of clarity in terms of how long this might go on for, what volumes we're dealing with, or what small numbers we're dealing with in terms of the tubes available, how quickly we're going to go short. All of that's unknown.
The Department for Health and Social Care says it's working flat out with the supplier to make sure there's minimal impact on patient care. But the NHS has been warned the issues could continue for a significant period of time. Catherine Stancheshan, BBC News.
Tens of thousands of people are fleeing for safety from the US state of Louisiana as a powerful hurricane gets closer.
Yeah, Hurricane Ida is expected to make landfall this evening, with winds expected to top 130 miles an hour. Nader Tawfik reports.
In New Orleans, residents prepare for the worst, even as they hope for the best. It's 16 years to the day since Hurricane Katrina devastated the city. On this unforgettable anniversary, the region is bracing for the landfall of what could be the strongest storm to hit Louisiana in more than a century.
Locked everything down, moved everything that could blow away, filled up all the vehicles, put everything in the freezer, have everything ready to go in case we're without power a few days, because it looks like it's coming right at us.
It's just one of them things you got to live with when you live down here. So it's going to come no matter what, so we're going to do the best we can.
Ida's growing power took officials by surprise. Many rushed to leave the area, but time ran out to organize a mandatory mass evacuation of the city's 390,000 residents. Just 2 days ago, the storm was a tropical depression.
Your window of time is closing. It is rapidly closing. And just like we said yesterday, by the time you go to bed tonight, you need to be where you intend to ride the storm out, and you need to be as prepared as you can be, because weather will start to deteriorate very quickly.
It's expected to bring winds as high as 130 miles per hour, a storm surge as high as 15 feet in some areas, and extreme flash flooding. Conditions that could threaten life, communities, and key infrastructure. Memories of the pain of Hurricane Katrina still haunt the city. The failure of federal levees left 80% of New Orleans underwater. The storm killed more than 1,800 people and left millions homeless here and along the Gulf Coast. Officials stress that the city's hurricane protections have vastly improved since then. If Ida hits at full strength, it will be a significant test of that system. Nader Tawfik, BBC News, New Orleans.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.